But other than that, that's kind of really how I got started. It was a pretty interesting, early on fishing, if I couldn't touch the bottom with my rod, I had to move shallower. I mean, I was very one-dimensional, and I was a shallow power fisherman. I wanted to be like Denny Brower and flip a jig or throw a spinnerbait. And just by necessity, that first year on the top 150s, I finished 100th, 105th or something in points. It was horrible. And I knew I had to get better. I used to call spinning rods fairy wands. I wouldn't have anything to do with them. And then I got better with spinning rods. And just any technique that I struggled at, I tried to make it a strong point. I would just literally take that bait and I'd go to the lake and I'd fish it and fish it and fish it and fish it until I got a ton of confidence in it. And then the next time, maybe drop shotting or something, I did all I could to get better at it. And probably, electronics, literally I was a shallow water fisherman, so I just spent all my time looking for deep stuff offshore and catching fish, and I got really, really confident in it. So, if it's something you want to, just be a weekend angler, if you want to pursue it at a higher level, try to master as many of those techniques as you possibly can, because you're going to encounter them. No matter if you just stay in California and go from the north to the south, you're going to encounter all that stuff different, or just through different weather patterns. But that's kind of how I got started and how I went through it all. I don't know, another way to really, that I'd suggest, somebody is, if you go fish the co-angler side, if I was to do it all over again, man, I would go enter the co-angler side of whatever it is that you can do. If it's just a weekend series, or if it's the Everstarts or the Opens, or a Marshall program and the Elites, what you can learn off somebody else is so much faster than trying to pick that up, on your own. I think that'd be the fastest way to the top. The more times you spend in the back of the boat, and don't go out there as that co-angler thinking, well, at the end of the season I didn't have any checks or didn't have any success. Don't go out there thinking, well, the only way I'm going to make it is I have to win here, or I have to win money, or take the whole money situation out of it. I would be almost happier if somebody didn't cash one check out of the back of the boat, but they learned a ton, than some guy that won every tournament as a co-angler. Because that guy's he's not learning off that other guy. And no matter how good or bad you think that angler is in the front, you can learn something off everybody. I can go fishing with you guys today or tomorrow, and I'm going to learn something you guys do different than I do. So approach all that stuff as a complete learning. Just go ahead and ante up whatever money it is, and just say, hey, this is an investment to my knowledge, and don't necessarily look at it as something that you've got to win money. But that's one thing. Another thing that I think would be really helpful. A question I get a lot is, how do you break down bodies of water? All the time we're traveling, and we get 3 days of practice. And for me, I can tell you, every tournament I've won, with the exception of one, was on a body of water I'd never been to before. I didn't go pre-practice. I didn't go call everybody in the world. Lake Erie, never been there in my life. Had 3 days of practice and I figured them out. Lake Norman, I can go through them, and it's amazing looking back. You think that all this stuff, you can get all this help and all this other things, but the fish are always going. You can't predict something 30 days in advance. So by going out there and fishing the current conditions, you're going to make decisions on your own. You're going to fish what's happening. You're not going to fish somebody else's memories or somebody else's fish. So really, focus on the current deals. And if you can't figure them out 3 days prior to a tournament, you don't need to be there. That's literally the case, because if you're there a week before, so much can change in the spring and the fall and those times, especially those 2 times. Summertime's a little different. You can find some fish, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks in a row, and they'll stay the same. But especially early in the year, those 3 days right prior to your tournament, it's usually going to change by the final. Let's take the Classic at New Orleans. You guys remember that Classic? If that tournament would have been a week, no, 3 days prior, Brent's here. If that tournament would have been 3 days prior, top 10 would have all come out of Venice. Every one of them. You could not get a bite in that Catalwachi. I don't care who you were. You could not get a bite in that Catalwachi the first day of practice. You could not. It was so cold in there. It's not this deep. And it was 15 to 20 degrees colder than when the tournament came. And it just goes to show, that's a perfect example. Kevin went on to win that tournament, but those fish moved in, that temperature warmed up, and it'd have been a completely different tournament if it was 3 days, earlier, or, you know, really 2 weeks later, those fish would have already been through there, and it still probably would have been one advantage. So it's just it's all about the current conditions. Don't put too much emphasis on what somebody else is telling you. Hey, I caught them here. That's what I'm wanting you to take from that. But another really good learning tool is we just started this new Major League Fishing. How many of you guys in here have heard of Major League Fishing? What is so neat or unique about this, there's lots of things. One is we don't ever have a weigh-in. So like when we catch a big fish off a bed, we have a marshal, a paid official in our boat that weighs that fish on certified scales and then releases it. So we have no mortality at all. I really love that in our sport, that, you know, in this deal. But two, we're on a new body of water every day we compete. We don't ever know the location where we're going till the week before, and then you're not allowed any waypoints. You can't put your chip in there if you've been on the body of water. But so far, you know, we've had 3 events, and they've been on bodies of water that none of us have ever been to. But we have to figure it out new every day. The one that we had last year at Amstead, you know, Amstead's a big lake. You compete over a 6-day period, and you're fishing a new section every day. And Amstead's really diverse. Some areas have grass, some areas have standing timber, some of it has none. It's a big old canyon lake. So to watch that, I enjoy watching it because I can see how my competitors break stuff down. You know, you got X amount of rods here that you got confidence in, and that's what you got to go attack the day with. So it's a really neat show and aspect in the fact that it'll help you guys, or it'll show you guys how the top 24 anglers in the world go and figure out a new body of water every day that they're on the water. It's really, really, really cool. It's something I would look into just to help your fishing.